Good evening, friends. Today is 26th November and the markets have closed. Today, in the opening itself, markets hit an all time high. Today's topic of discussion is, in spite of being a slowing economy right now, there is a slowdown in the Indian economy right now. But in spite of that, markets are hitting all time high. Why is this happening? And this is not only happening in India, this is happening in US, Europe also. Those economies are also slowing down, but the stock markets are hitting all time high at present moment. And if you take in consideration year 2013 in India, that time also India was going through a slowdown because of global slowdown factors, but the stock market collapsed. But right now the markets are not collapsing, markets are actually making new highs. So why is this happening? So why am I specially concentrating on this topic in this video? Because there is a lot to learn from this situation. There is a lot of fear going on right now. There is a lot of fear mongering also going on right now on social media also, and many eminent economists also are writing literal obituaries of Indian economy, and this creates a fear among people, and they literally stop investing in markets. And this slowdown has been happening since May this month. The pace has increased of slowdown, and still markets did not fall. Actually, they made a new high today itself. It came down today because of all the politics that is going around. I'm not going to discuss politics here, but let's discuss the main ground realities, the factors that you can that are affecting why is there a slowdown. We'll discuss what is slowdown, what are the steps taken by the government, what is going to happen next. I'll make a realistic prediction I would also like to make. So let's start with the definition of slowdown. So let's define slowdown. Slowdown is nothing but deceleration in economic growth. I had discussed this before also on some other video, that economic slowdown is different and recession is different. People mix up economic slowdown with recession. Economic slowdown is nothing but when your economy, for example, what is happening right now. Our economy was growing at 7.5% and now it has decelerated. That is, this growth has come down to somewhere around 6%. So 6.56%, and this number varies in decimals. So this deceleration, that is, the economy is still growing, but it is growing at a slower pace than before, and that is slowdown. So still there is an economic growth, but it is only growing at a little bit slower pace. And recession is when the economy doesn't grow, the growth goes into negative. That is, instead of economic activity expanding, the economic activity goes down, and that is negative. Example of recession is 2008 US global recession. The recession from US that happened due to the fall in real estate market in the US, and followingly big banks in the US, they failed, and that impacted the automobile sector there, and it spilled over to rest of the world, because most of the money all around the world comes from US to do business activity. Most of the US is net importing economy. It only exports intellectual property and software, but most of the product it consumes from rest of the world. So the whole world went into recession. But right now it is a slowdown, it's not a recession. The economic activity has contracted, it has not gone down. The example of slowdown in India is basically which happened in 2013. It happened in India because of both local and global situations. Globally, there was a slowdown in Europe, and US economy also, when it came out of recession, it slowed down and it lagged around for a long time. And inflationary activity in India was so high that the retail inflation and wholesale inflation crossed even 10%. So That was the difference between the slowdown that is now and that was in 2013. So in 2013 also, under the UPA-2 government, the economy was growing at around 8%, but it suddenly slowed down and came down to 4.5. And the pace of fall was similar like it is right now. That is, within 6 months, whole economy slowed down to very low pace. So that means in 2013 also economy was growing, but it was growing only at 4.5%. Right now it is growing at around 6.5. There is a debate on this 0.5 right now going on. Anyways, so that is the definition of slowdown. Slowdown is nothing but slowing down of the pace of growth. That's it. So there is no need to write obituaries of Indian economy. Okay, there is a fear that this slowdown, if it continues and it might go into recession, but that doesn't look as of now. Okay, now let's discuss what are the reasons of the current slowdown. First reason for slowdown in India is global economic slowdown. Global economic slowdown is happening in US. The slowdown of GDP growth in US, slowdown of GDP growth in Europe, and also the ongoing this trade war between US and China is the main reason for global economic slowdown right now, and that is impacting India, because India is mostly dependent on exports. India exports a lot of products, and that is how it gets its foreign exchange, and many of the companies are export based in India, and that is the reason. So the easiest way to recognize, easiest point to see if there is a global economic slowdown is to check the quarterly results of IT companies in India. So the easiest indicator that anyone can look of global slowdown impacting India is the quarterly results of IT companies. You can check quarterly results, that is the results of last quarter and also the last quarter of before that. You can clearly see that the quarterly sales of IT companies like Infosys, TCS, Wipro, they actually were not performing very well. So revenues of Infosys and TCS mostly depend on revenues from United States and Europe, and almost 80 to 90% of these revenues come from these countries only. And if their sales are down or they are not increasing quarter on quarter or year on year, that is the first evidence that businesses in US and Europe are not performing well, and they are not making allocation to IT companies to upgrade their systems. And that is the first data point indicator that anyone should look while you want to judge or while you want to identify whether a global economic slowdown is impacting India. So clearly what has happened is TCS, Infosys and Wipro were not growing in quarter to quarter terms or year on year terms in their sales, and they clearly in their press notes and or in their result declaration they said that there is a slowdown in US and Europe, and that is the reason their revenues are not increasing. Next factor that is causing slowdown in India is fear of tax authorities. If you see, immediately since 2019 election was won by NDA, the slowdown increased a lot, and the reason was there is a fear among the business community that the tax, now that the government has come back with a stronger mandate, government will start targeting companies which deal in cash, which deal in black economy, black money, and that is the reason they have stopped spending. Business owners or mid-sized business owners, small-sized business owners, they have stopped all their investments, all their expenditure. If you see, most of the expenditure of black money happens on automobiles, real estate, and gold and silver. And if you see right now also, automobile sector is down, sales in jewelry is down, and also real estate is down. That is the first indication that the black money is not getting invested in these assets. Next factor obviously is automobile sector. Since the sales of automobiles have gone down, now obviously many of the jobs have been lost in automobile sector itself. People are jobless, population is right now not spending a lot. That means there will be obviously a slowdown in the economy. Now the reasons for the slowdown in sales of automobile, as I said, one was the black money is not coming into automobiles now, because obviously when you buy an automobile now, the seller is asking your PAN details and everything, and these details are recorded in the system, and the tax authorities can track now how much a person is earning and where the expenditure is happening. So that is one reason. Second reason was the BS, Bharat Stage 6 push by the government. Government is concentrating on stringent pollution standards. It is asking for the Bharat Stage 4 and Bharat Stage 5 automobiles to be stopped in production, and Bharat Stage 6 automobiles to come into production. And that was the reason that in these last 6 months, all the automobiles which were in Bharat Stage 5 production phase, all these automobiles, they stopped, people stopped buying them, and people preferred waiting for the Bharat Stage 6 engines to come in, and then they will buy the automobiles. The third reason for slowdown in automobile sales is basically also a push from government for electric vehicles. So people are preferring to wait until electric vehicles come into the market and not buy the existing Bharat Stage 5 vehicles. And that is, these two reasons have also been a very main factor for the slowdown in automobile sales. And as automobile sales decrease, the showroom owners or the service centers and all these people start laying off their workforce, and that is the reason the expenditure from these salaried people come down. Next factor which is impacting slowdown in India is NPAs of banks. Almost all major banks, all public sector banks have been impacted by NPAs, and also now private sector banks like Axis Bank and Yes Bank to be if you highlight NPA hit private sector banks, then you can easily highlight Yes Bank. These banks have been hit by NPAs from many businesses. All these loans were done during the 2008 to 2013, during the slowdown phase of the economy, and these businesses were not able to grow a lot, and they went into NPAs. And these loans have not come back to the banks, and these banks had to declare most of these NPAs and show the losses in their balance sheets. Now what has happened is, the new loans that the banks have to give, now banks are putting very stringent rules towards it. It is doing a lot of checks and balances to the new new borrowers. What has happened is the retail NPAs have been less, but the business NPAs have been huge, and that is the reason banks have also become very careful, and they are not giving loans that easily to new businesses or also to some of the existing businesses. And that is the reason these businesses don't have new capital coming in, and they are not able to invest in new ideas or new businesses or new verticals of the businesses, and they are not able to generate more employment. And that is also being the reason for the slowdown in the economy. RBI is also putting very stringent rules and laws for banks to create new loans now, and that is the reason most of the economy, any economy if you take in the world, runs on loans to businesses, loans to people. So if the pace of giving loans comes down, obviously there will be a slowdown, because the expenditure from businesses decreases. they are not able to give salary hikes, they are not able to create more employment, and so there will definitely be a economic slowdown. This is another reason is salary stagnation. Obviously, if businesses are not able to invest new money, create new employment, or create new business opportunities, they are not getting loans, then obviously salaries also of people will not increase. In India, many of these jobs, employment depends on IT companies. IT companies also are not able to increase their salaries right now because of decrease in demand. Though now, since the government decreased the corporate taxes now, some of the companies were able to give salary hikes to its IT companies. IT company employees got salary hikes also. But still, many of the sectors are still now not out of this, and salary stagnation is also one reason. They are not able to spend money in the economy. And the last but not the least factor for reason for economic slowdown in India is the real estate sector. So the real estate sector also has not been growing because obviously all these reasons combined, NPAs also have been coming out of mostly from the real estate sector itself, and also salary stagnation. All these factors combined is creating a slowdown in real estate, and most of the daily earning wage owners are dependent on real estate because real estate is big in India. You can add infrastructure also to that because infrastructure also needs a lot of loans, and most daily wage owners depend on infrastructure and real estate constructions, and they are not able to get the daily wages. So obviously the sales in many companies, consumer dependent companies like Parle, Britannia and all those, they had to show a decrease in sales. And last, after discussing all these reasons, I want to say that this slowdown itself is very confusing. If you see, DMart has been increasing its sales quarter to quarter. Even in this worst slowdown period, it has been able to increase its sales. If you see the festival sales of Amazon and Flipkart, those sales have been record high. They had to come, their sales were so high, in Dasara sales were so high, they had to come out with a follow-up sale in Diwali in a gap of few days, and after Diwali also they had to come out with follow-up sales, and all these sales recorded all-time high. Brands like Xiaomi, that is MI in India, and brands like other Chinese brands, they recorded record sales in India. MI, when it came out with its TV, it recorded a sales along with all the mobiles and TV sales. It recorded a sale of $1 billion in the festive sales. In first day of the Dasara sale, Flipkart and Amazon recorded a sale of 750 crores of mobile phones and smartphones. So there is money with salaried people. If you see, all these sales comes mostly from the salaried group in the cities, the young population from the cities. They come and do purchasing on e-commerce websites. So the black economy somewhere was severely hit by the re-election of the current government, and also the fear of tax authorities and the fear in the black economy. And so you see that the people who are not salaried, they were hit, but people who are salaried, they are still in a very good situation. So this slowdown is very much mixed as such. Now, the main topic of discussion is, why is the stock market growing in spite of a slowdown? If you see, the logic says that if the economy is slowing down, the growth is slowing down, stock markets also should collapse, because economy depends on the profit earned by these big companies which are listed on the stock exchange. Salaries of these people in the whole economy depends on these companies, how much profits they earn, how much revenues they make. So how come stock market is growing? The main reason for that is that the inflation is in control. Government in spite of whatever criticism you make, but the inflation is very much under control. Inflation is not rising. Only last month inflation increased because of the losses of farmers, because of unseasonal rainfalls and heavy rainfalls. The inflation has marginally increased. But over the last, since 2014 until 2019, I can say until August, the inflation has remained consistently in the RBI targeted range. And that is the reason for the stock markets increasing. Now I will elaborate on this. How does this happen? What is inflation? Inflation is nothing but a rise in prices of the products that are produced in the economy. It can be agricultural product or it can be any other product. Inflation, say suppose is 4%. Say suppose it was 4% in September. That means the price increase on average this year of the products produced in the economy is going to be 4%, and that implies that the value of the 1 rupee that you hold is decreased by 4%. So that is the inflation declared by RBI, retail inflation and the wholesale inflation. Both are under control. In fact, the wholesale inflation is even down. Now it has increased because of the agricultural products. There is a shortage, but since 2014 that has been in control. What does this mean? This means that the value of the rupee that you hold is not decreasing tremendously. What happens if inflation is high is that whatever rupee you hold, the value of the rupee decreases because of inflation. In 2013 also there was a slowdown, but the stock markets crashed during that time. The reason for that was under the UPA 2 the inflation was more than 10%. That is the inflation declared by RBI, wholesale and retail inflation. Now if you see the RBI and RBI's declared inflation are the inflation for the people who are near the poverty line or below the poverty line, the basic needs. But lifestyle inflation actually is far greater. So if the inflation for the poor public or the middle class public itself was about 10%, then no matter how much you invest in whatever business you invest, you are going to lose value every year. And that was the reason the market collapsed. Why do people invest in stock markets? People should invest in stock market to beat inflation. They invest in stock markets only for the reason that it can beat the nominal inflation that is declared by RBI and also the lifestyle inflation that is not accounted by RBI. That for that reason the smart money always goes into stock market. But when the economy is slowing down, the companies are not able to generate profit or they are not able to create more jobs, then on top of that your inflation is above 9-10%. That means the stock market investment is also not going to be enough to beat inflation. And that is the reason right now, in spite of slowdown, in spite of new data coming in that the industrial production is still decelerating, stock markets are making a new high because inflation is low. The value of currency or value of money that you hold is not going down. And if you invested in stock market, you can easily beat that inflation in spite of the slowdown. And steps also have been taken by the government to decrease the corporate tax. The corporate tax is effectively decreased by 12 to 15% depending on the industry and depending on the accounting that they do. And already these results have been shown in the the results have been seen. The results of DMart and all the other companies, they are showing a jump in their profits. So what stock market does, it's 6 months before anything it accounts into it. So it can be easily judged that 6 months down the line, the slowdown that we are seeing right now will be over and probably economy will start picking up again. 6 months before anything happens, the stock market accounts itself. and that is the reason why the markets are making high. In any situation, even if you see 2008, there was a big recession in US, and today US markets are at all-time high. India also, Indian market almost crashed. The indexes crashed more than 50%. In 2000, at the peak in 2000, Sensex was at 21,000. It almost tried to reach 22,000. Then it crashed to 9,000, and from there today's high point, that was all-time high, was 41,000. No matter what is the market condition, economic condition, if you're young, you should keep a maximum allocation to stock market investment, because no matter how the economy performs, when the economy picks up, the companies which are publicly listed always keep increasing their sales and always keep increasing their profits, because population also is increasing, consumption will keep increasing, and the stock markets respond accordingly and they make new highs. And slowdown is not a very big factor. The biggest factor for stock markets is inflation, because if inflation is high, the RBI starts to increase interest rates and the investment in the economy decreases. It suddenly goes down, because stock markets are completely dependent on flow of money in the economy. If inflation increases, interest rates in the economy increase and the money flow dips down suddenly, and people start pulling out money from the stock market, bonds. But right now the interest rates are low, and it is estimated that the interest rates will keep on going lower because there is no fear of inflation. So do not take slowdown so severely. Obviously, yes, recession is a different story. Recession is a very evil thing. Slowdown is a very what you can say is, people are spending less right now. They are not spending as they were spending before. But in recession, what happens is spending completely stops. People lose jobs, people lose their houses. So, but Indian economy being a young economy and being a progressive economy, I don't think so in my lifetime I'll see a recession. I was scared that the NPA issue that is happening right now might become a full blown out financial crisis in India, but that is also not happening, because we have the world's best banking authority, that is RBI, and also along with it we have SEBI, which are world best regulating authorities, and because of that we don't have to fear of a recession or frauds continuously happening in the economy. Now what I want to say at last is that do not stop your equity allocations, do not stop your equity investments. In fact, when the stock markets fall, increase your allocation if you are young, and you will see that over the years, your investments will keep on increasing. Now, so that is the end of this discussion from me. What I'll do is to increase your knowledge even further. I'm going to make videos on big stock markets fall and what has happened after that. I will start with the 1929 global depression, which is worse than recession, which started with the fall in US stock markets and what has happened since then. And I'm going to cover all these stock markets fall, and you can learn some things from it. Why did depression happen, and the follow-up recessions, why did they happen, and what is the situation now, how did they come out of it. So stay tuned. Thank you.